What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we need to take a little bit of a look at a proper job RPG book thing. Now, I'm not a big RPG guy, I will be perfectly honest with you, ladies and gentlemen. Partly it's not having a time, partly it's not having a regular group, etc. It's the kind of thing I'd be into, the kind of thing I'd enjoy. It's just the kind of thing I've never really had much of a chance to get into. As opposed to, for instance, trading card games where I'm all over it. My knowledge is there. But you see, one of my favourite trading card games, as I'm sure you all know if you've looked at this channel before, is Keyforge. I adore Keyforge. And the Genesis system, which is run by Fantasy Flight Games, just so happens to have a Keyforge Sourcebook coming out. And that makes me go, right, time to get a little bit excited about RPGs. This is a day one purchase for me, right? Even though I don't play RPGs, even though I might never play the game, it is going to be absolutely chocked full of lovely Keyforge goodness, and that alone makes it something that I am worried about. But they've given us a little bit of a preview over on the official website, and I'll be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, there might be a couple of hints in there about Keyforge moving forward. Now, it is all built on the Genesis role-playing system. This is an FFG thing. You can actually get the role-playing system, what's it actually called? The core rulebook is available now. And it is described as this: blast hordes of reanimated skeletons with holy fire. Explore new worlds in a steam-powered Zeppelin. Match wits with an alien warlord, or invent your own entirely unique world. Unlimited adventure awaits you in a role-playing system limited only by your imagination with Genesis, a role-playing game featuring the narrative dice system. Genesis is a role-playing system designed for flexibility and adaptability, specifically tooled to work with any setting imaginable. The Genesis core rulebook not only contains an overview of the rules and how the innovative narrative dice system works, but everything a GM and players need to run adventures in 5 completely different settings. Everything from equipment to adversaries, character abilities to an overview of narrative tropes, all is provided in the core rulebook for Genesis. With a system so adaptable and expansive, you can explore every popular role-playing genre, from classic fantasy-style campaigns to modern detective thrillers, and even to a far-off sci-fi future. Genesis doesn't fit into any one genre of role-playing, and instead invites players to craft their own stories of unparalleled freedom. So you could already have done a bit of the old Keyforge in the Genesis role-playing system, but now they're making it just a little bit easier for us. Now, the sourcebook comes in at 272 pages, and it talks about lost civilizations, cryptic conspiracies, bizarre environments, mutated monsters, and more. It contains new character creation options, unique weapons and armor, new skills evolving around the mysterious amber permeating the world, bizarre adversaries, and a new adventure builder that puts all these aspects together. What this means is that inside this sourcebook, you are going to find a bunch of Keyforge stuff, and some of it is clearly going to be based around things we've already seen in the card game. One of the lovely bits of artwork they showed off in the article was this, which is clearly the artwork for Onyx Knight and Opal Knight. Those two cards, when you put them together, form basically one picture, and they are very much mirror images of them, bearing in mind Onyx Knight is a disc creature, Opal Knight is a Sanctum creature, and they're kind of mortal enemies in terms of races. What that means is you can, and again, I'm spitballing a little bit here, but this seems like a fairly good suggestion. It seems like you're going to get a whole bunch of stuff based on things you've already seen in the card game, and then a bunch of new stuff which will later be incorporated into the card game. I see this as it follows on from what we've seen in the cards, goes a bit further, and then hopefully we'll get more Keyforge books in the future, and we'll see a bit of a back and forth as we go. Now, one thing I find very interesting here is in the article it refers to 11 of these species to choose from when creating a character, including giants, Martians, and robots. Now, this doesn't equate to houses. We currently have 9 houses in the game. In Call of the Archons, we were introduced to Brobnar, Logos, Shadows, Sanctum, Mars, Dis, and Untamed. And then in Worlds Collide, the 3rd expansion, we were introduced to the Saurian Republic and the Grand Star Alliance. But this isn't talking about houses, it's talking about giants, Martians, and robots. Yes, the majority of Brobnar creatures are giants, not all of them. Yes, the majority of Mars creatures are Martians, not all of them. And yes, we see a bunch of robots, for instance, in Logos, but that doesn't mean that all of them fit this particular template. Now, if you are a giant, the likelihood is that you are going to end up being a Brobnar creature in the RPG. But then again, I mean, one of my favourite cards, thematically, in terms of Worlds Collide, was Special Agent Fingers. And if I just showed you the artwork for Special Agent Fingers, you'd say Shadows creature. Because it clearly is a Shadows creature. Yeah, it's clearly the kind of thing that is supposed to be a Shadows creature, but it has instead joined the Grand Star Alliance. But that doesn't mean that the information in the sourcebook isn't going to be hinting at new houses. I think it's fair to assume they're not going to introduce a new house in the sourcebook. I could be wrong. But I also think it's fair to assume that they are going to put a whole bunch of hints to future houses in the sourcebook. And they started doing this in Worlds Collide with all of these anomalies. I mean, if we look at the Red Baron is clearly from a pirate house we've not seen yet. Valucanth is clearly from a water kind of creature house that we haven't seen yet. Although, to be fair, we knew that water house was coming from Terms of Redress, a card that we saw right back in Call of the Archons, and clearly has a race of fish people on it. Those fish people haven't actually been spoiled yet, we haven't seen them, but come on, we know that they're coming. So the 11 species doesn't necessarily mean 11 new houses, but it does mean we're going to see a whole bunch of new stuff. Traverse the land as an aquatic horse-type species, or roll through the crucible as a giant rock. The choice is always yours. That doesn't sound very much like creatures we've seen so far. Aquatic horse species, again, if you can remember what that is, let me know in the comments section. That doesn't really ring a bell, although it seems to come from the same house at some point as Valucanth, one would imagine. It's very, very cool. Now, one thing I do find very interesting is, there is a phrase in there, given the enormous number of beings on the Crucible, it is no wonder there are untold millions of groups, factions, houses, associations, and other ways for them to band together. Referred to as organizations, these groups range from congregations of belief systems, followed by thousands of species, to a singularly immortal hive mind linking a multitude of small protoplasmic blobs. This sounds like fun, ladies and gentlemen. This really does sound like they're going to introduce a bunch of stuff that we haven't seen in the card game yet. And there's already hints in this preview article here. In terms of the game as a whole, it is modular, which is nice. It means that you get to kind of play in smaller chunks if you so wish. And it is said to be similar to the encounters found in Shadow of the Beanstalk, which of course was an Android RPG book, which I know a lot of people are very fond of going back, so that's very, very cool. And it does say that the adventure builder contains 3 categories: hooks, escalations, and climaxes, and by combining one of each you create your own story with a satisfying conclusion. Hooks are the initial enticement, they're the thing that get you into the game. Present them clearly, players don't spend a lot of time wondering what the possibilities are. Now, it says in the article they can be quite cliche, which is great for telegraphing the basic intent of the adventure, but it can set up unexpected events later on. Perhaps an amber hunter needs you to fight off a Martian scouting party, or the PCs find a hot lead on a valuable artifact. An escalation raises the stakes or difficulty of the adventure, could challenge the morality of the situation, for instance. And climaxes are more open and nebulous. They represent broad categories of possible resolutions, which can be impacted by and circumvented by PC actions. And it does say in the article that that's the kind of thing they're going to look at in a future preview. This seems like the kind of book that's going to make me go out and find an RPG party from my friends who don't usually play RPGs. And I think there are a lot of hints in here to things we're going to find in Keyforge a card game later on, but it also shows that they're really expanding the Keyforge world, and that makes me extremely happy. So there we go. That was my preview of it, / what we know, / what it tells us about the card game. And at this stage, I just want to know what you think about all of this. I want to know your take on it. I want to know what you're hoping for. I want to know if you're going to buy this and whether you play RPGs usually or not. Let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, but please remember the rule. Be nice, would ya? And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and follow me on Twitter at the Wossy, where we talk Keyforge and any other games that take our fancy. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.